I've tried to make this video so many times now, and it's just not working out well. It's not working out well. If it seems like I'm sighing a lot or if I'm yawning, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to get enough air, right? It's hard to breathe. To make matters worse, I don't have AC in this apartment, and I don't have a window air conditioning right now just because of space. And I have a window fan. The problem is that right now, because of the Canadian wildfires, Chicago air quality is really bad, so I have to leave the window closed, which sucks because it was so hot, you know, and yesterday and today cooled down a lot. The last few days have been a lot cooler, and what I want most is to keep the window open with the fan on to get some of that fresh air. It's such a relief, right? Because it had, you know, last week, a week before, it had gotten up into the high 90s. But I can't even have the window open with the fan on because of the poor air quality now. I can't even have that. So it's almost like the universe is just fucking with me in every way it can. Anyway, my cardiologist ordered a stress test for me, but a stress test with tracer or tracker or whatever they call it. So next week I'm going to have a stress test where they inject radioactive dye or something into my vein to try to track or trace the function of my heart. Doesn't sound great. We'll see what happens. I'm a little worried about that. And then the week after that, the following week, so yet a few days ago, I saw the hematologist, and he ordered more blood work done, and he said that depending on the results of the blood work, he might want me to have a bone marrow biopsy, which I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope that doesn't happen. But I have a telehealth appointment with him the week after next. I forget what the date was. So then I'll find out whether I have to have the bone marrow biopsy. Hopefully that's not going to happen. Yeah. The issue is they can't figure out why I'm anemic. And with the medications I'm on, like for the cardiac issues, the anemia could pose a problem. Just everything's a mess right now. And I'm tired. And I don't know what's going to happen. And it's frightening. And I fucking hate this. You know where you're exhausted and you almost think like you just can't do it anymore, but you're afraid to die. You know that feeling? But here's the reason that I'm making this video, okay? This is a video in 100% opposition to fatalism. Here's what happens. You know, and understand, I'm not an atheist. I'm not an atheist. I'm agnostic. But what people do a lot of the time is they will make up stories to make themselves feel better and to comfort other people also. And inherently, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with needing some comfort and wanting to comfort others when they're afraid and they're suffering. Okay, I get that. The problem is sometimes those stories can create more problems down the road. So, for example, they come up with stories to justify why suffering and pain and death have to happen, right? And they create stories of a peaceful, wonderful afterlife, and you'll see your family again, and you'll see your friends again. And of course, we all wish that's true. I hope that's true, right? I don't want to just cease to exist, and I don't want the people who I love, who I've lost, to not exist. All right? But here's the thing, right? While that can be comforting, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, what tends to happen is people can sometimes use that as an excuse to justify letting people die or themselves dying when there's no longer a reason to. They can use it to justify doing away with medical care and avoiding modern medicine at all and saying, well, this is our lifetime, we have it, and that's it. But the thing is, it's not it. You know, people used to die in their 30s. People used to die of bacterial infections before antibiotics. You know, women used to die in childbirth all the time before modern medicine. It's medicine and science that have given us a longer lifespan, that have stopped a lot of the things that killed our ancestors. And how did we get here, right? How are we where we are right now? Surviving, alive, right? We're here. it isn't because our ancestors just gave up and said, well, this is what the fates dealt us, I guess we're going to lie down and die. No, it's because they fought. They fought for survival. They were strong, and they wanted to survive, and they wanted their descendants to survive. So if something was killing them and hurting them and hindering their quality of life, they would look for ways to fix that. And that's why we're alive today. That's why you're watching this video here today. Because your ancestors had a very strong survival instinct. If something helped them survive, they would take it. They would use it. They would not get rid of it. Unfortunately, in the United States, we're having the opposite happen now. The Republicans are getting rid of modern medical care. They're cutting research for medical care. They recently are cutting research they're cutting financing for research for cancer. They're cutting, and that includes pediatric cancer. They're cutting funding for that. They're getting rid of vaccines that have saved lives, right? They're getting rid of maternal medical care, which is why the maternal death rate is increasing to such an extent, right? They're trying to force women and unfortunately girls to bear offspring, even though they're taking away modern medicine and leading to a higher death toll. And then they say, well, why don't they want to have babies? Well, gee, I wonder. This is destructive, and a lot of, whatever the puppet masters, their agenda is, they're not stupid. A lot of the people who are allowing this they have a fatalistic view. They believe that this is what God wants, right? They believe God wants pain, suffering, and death, and so they allow it. And they're actually creating it, because now they're doing it. They're taking away the necessities of life, and by doing that, they're killing. Taking away the necessities of life is murder. Taking away medicines and medical care and surgeries and procedures that have saved lives now in our modern times, millions of lives, so that millions of people start dying again from things that they no longer need to die from, that's murder. And that's what's happening in the United States. It's fatalism. Religious, psychotic, fatalistic. They say, well, you die, you'll get a reward in heaven. So then people try to die when there's no reason for them to, because there's modern medicine, right? I'm not an atheist. I'm not telling people to be an atheist, but don't let supernatural belief alter your perception of reality and lead you to do things that might lead to pain, suffering, unnecessary pain, suffering, and death here on this planet, when there are things that could stop that from happening. Okay? And this starts with, right now they're silencing people. And it's not just the conservatives either. They're trying to force people to suffer in silence, to not talk about it, not speak about it. They're hiding it behind closed doors so nobody hears about it. So what that means is that suffering is not going to stop. Nothing is going to be done to actually stop it, because people aren't acknowledging it's happening. Whether it's the far right or even spiritualists, the new agers, right? If their idea demands silence and suffering and that you not speak about it, they're not stopping pain, they're not stopping suffering, they're causing more of it. Because they're preventing people from taking action that might stop it. And this includes abuse. If no one knows that abuse is happening, it's never going to stop. Silence is deadly. We've got some bad people in this world infiltrating every single group. And the end goal is for them to just be able to continue torturing people and continue on with their abuse, while people just shut up and take it quietly and fatalistically and don't fight back. And that's weak. That's intellectual laziness. It's weakness. We are here because our ancestors fought back. They wanted a better life. If something was causing them pain, they would seek to stop it. And so they developed medicines. They developed they developed surgeries. If someone was killing them, they would develop ways to avoid that, whether it's medicine, surgery, or something else. Right? Think about all of the modern things we have today that we would not be alive without. Going back to this natural bullshit is not going to work. It's like Neil deGrasse Tyson said, right? People, hundreds of years ago, they were organic. They ate organic. They, everything was organic. There weren't surgeries. There weren't whatever. But they died, in their middle to late 30s and often sooner than that. Eating organic alone did not keep them alive, and it's not going to keep us alive. Modern medicine and modern science do. We need to embrace that. We're at a time now where ideally lifespan can be increased. The technology, we're coming on to that now. People in the future might never have to go through what we're going through. They might never have to sit by the side of a loved one who's dying and suffering and feel pain because of that. It's a loss you never get over. And I guess the people who run away and who don't stick around, they're never going to feel it. But they're going to die one day too. Then one day they're going to be in that body that's rotting with them inside of it. Maybe one day people won't need to ever endure this. I don't want to hear it's just part of life, because it doesn't have to be. Why let people suffer and die when there's a cure for that? Okay? Don't be fatalistic. Instead, be like our ancestors. Be strong. Fight death. Forget letting illness kill people. Kill death. And with science and technology, soon we might be able to. Fight back.